But I was in Perth and I was catching a lot of Ubers. And I don't know if you guys realise, Uber's brought in a sign now to let you know which cars are Ubers and which cars aren't, which I appreciate. Because back in the day, I wasn't sure which cars were Ubers and which white families had a strong Indian patriarch. You know, like, what is it? Please welcome Daniel Muggleton! I ordered this Uber in Perth and I was waiting for him and I saw the number plate and I was like, I think this is my guy. Then I saw the sign and I was like, it must be him. And then I got closer and I saw that my guy's sign was hand-drawn. I'm not talking a printed home job. I'm talking he got a blank piece of paper, a black Sharpie, and in his best Helvetica wrote Uber and just blue tack that to the windshield. And I was like, you know what's more suspicious than no sign? That'd be the old hand-drawn sign, I reckon. If I got in the back of that Uber, I was going to become the victim of a podcast, for sure. Lock it in. But I do appreciate Uber bringing in the sign because I drive a white Toyota Camry and sometimes people get in. You know, that's just a risk you take with that make and model of car, right? You put the hazards on in a Camry, someone's in your back seat being like, cheers, mate, how's your night been? And you're like, get the fuck out of my car. But give me 5 stars, don't be a dog. You know, like there's a system. Honestly, it's happening so much. I think I need some kind of sign to let people know I'm not an Uber. So what I did is I got a Liberal Party bumper sticker, and that tends to get the job done, you know? Not a lot of crossover in those fan bases. I'm just kidding, obviously. They get in, they see I'm white, and they're like, oh, sorry, and they get out. You know, that's actually how it works. And I was telling that story to an Uber driver in Perth, and he was like, wait, am I the first white Uber driver you've had in Perth? And I was like, no, you're the third. And I couldn't figure out whether it was weirder that he asked or I counted. You know, who's the villain? But no, it is nice being back in Australia. I was just doing a tour of the UK. And one thing, I don't know if you guys realise this, like before comedy in Australia now, they play the Acknowledgement of Country pretty regularly. That's like a common thing in like the kind of pre-show announcements. Like, I understand the gesture, I just don't understand like the way it works because they include it in the housekeeping. You know, you come to a show, you sit down, the lights dim, then this voice comes over a speaker being like, ladies and gentlemen, please switch your mobile phones to silent, and we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, past, present, and emerging. And please no videotaping of the performance. Thank you very much. Just takes a bit of zip out of the apology for me. You know, if I apologise to my wife, I don't include it in the chores, right? That's not when that happens. I'm not like, hey, it's bin night if you want to take out the recycling, and I'm so sorry for cheating on you. It won't happen again. But if you go into the shops, you're out of milk. You know, it just seems a bit insincere, you know? Like, we already stand during the national anthem. Why not stand during the Acknowledgement of Country as well? And then it ends and you go to sit back down and there's an Indigenous guy in your chair. And you're like, this is awkward. And he's like, yeah. How do you feel about an apology in 200 years, mate? I will be seated until then, though. But I was in the UK just recently. Do we have any British people here? Out of interest? Yeah, fucking you guys tend to turn up. Yes. Sorry, what's your name? Georgia. Nice to meet you, Georgia. Can you just confirm this thing for me, that British people pride themselves on their queuing? How many ventriloquists in one fucking crowd? I asked Georgia a simple question, and another English person's like, I got it. Like, we can't trust Georgia with this shit. Get in line. Fuck, not bad, Georgia. I mean, judging by the crowd, it was bad, because nobody laughed until I said it, you know? That's timing. But no, you confirm British people pride themselves on their queuing? Yeah, I find that, I didn't know that till I lived there. Like, I didn't know that till I lived in the UK, but you hear it all the time, like, yeah, we know how to queue. You know, they always talk about the Europeans, like continental Europeans are like, those guys don't know how to queue. You know, went to the Greek islands, lovely, lovely holiday, but those fucking olive oil drinkers have no idea how to form a line, you know? These triangle fuckers just cannot wait correctly. And I just find it such a weird brag for a country who went around the world and never asked if anyone was there first. You know, it's just... Are you only good at home? You know, like, is this like an at-home thing? But once you're abroad, you're like, fuck it, your rules, right? That, for me, speaks to how nice Indigenous Australian people are. Because if I was an Indigenous Australian, all I'd do all day is cut in line. That'd be 100%. of my day. I just find the longest queue I could find, walk all the way up to the front, just stand there and wait. Just wait for someone to tap me on the shoulder being like, excuse me, I was here first. And I'd be like, were you? But no, just to catch you guys up on where I'm at. I'm in the worst financial position of my life. Thank you. No, it's not that. I've got some money. I've never had some money before, and that's significantly worse than having no money. Because when you have some money, no one tells you what to do with it, so you're just counting down the days till you go back to having no money. Right? And like, by some money, don't get the wrong idea, it's not going well. What I mean is, like, I've been on tour for 2 weeks, and I could afford to stay in a hotel the entire time. Some money. Yeah, exactly. That's exciting for me. It might be exciting for you, but it's exciting for me, because I was in the hostel stage of my life for too long. I don't know if you guys have ever been the wrong side of 30 in a hostel. Just there, creeping everybody out. Looking like the passage of time, you know? They come down to breakfast, they were just trying to finger someone on a bunk bed, right? Having the time of their lives, and they see you on your own just eating muesli. And they're like, what is muesli? And you're like, you'll see. Enthusiasm can't keep you regular forever, right? But I was also in the motel stage of my life for a bit, and motels are fine, but this is just a difficult phase to check into a motel with no children. You know, this is a tough one to get through the door. It's like, yeah, no kids, no car either. What time does the pool open? Right? It's just, you guys are being very polite. I've got a pedophile's face. That's the joke. There. And I know that. Everyone's being nice about it. I do this for a living. People yell at me frequently, right? I know what I'm working with. And the problem with looking like a pedophile is you can't tell people I'm not a pedophile, because I don't know if you guys are aware of the sentence, I'm not a pedophile. It's really only said by one group. But so I'm in the hotel stage of my life now, which is very exciting for me, but I have learnt something about myself in hotel rooms. There's no room that I masturbate more in. It's crazy, the numbers I'm clocking up in there. Like, seriously, it's teenage level shit. It's impressive. And you guys are looking at me like I'm gross. No, you do it too. You know, like, everybody masturbates heaps in hotel rooms, otherwise check-in would be earlier. You think it takes a team of professionals from 10 till 2 to clean one fucking room? No. That's just jizz check. That's what that is. They can't afford another incident, right? Everybody masturbates in hotel rooms. And you should, because there's no shame associated with masturbating on a hotel bed. Other beds, there's shame. I'm married, I masturbate in my marital bed. There's a bit of shame there. My wife catches me, now we're fighting. Now I'm staying with my mum, masturbating in my childhood bed, right? That's... bit of shame there. My feet dangle off the end. It's a single, all right? It's not ideal for my circulation. But in a hotel room, there's no shame, right? That's not even the top 3 worst things to happen to that bed that day, right? It's glad you're there. And why wouldn't you masturbate in a hotel room? It's exciting to wipe your dick on that many different sizes of towel, right? That's fun. At home, I'm married. It's a day-old t-shirt. I know how the world works, but in a hotel room, I've got options. I'm like, hand towel, we'll see about that. Face cloth, sounds like a suggestion to me. Bath mat, come here, you dirty girl, let's fucking go. And look, I know you shouldn't generalize about the genders, even though it's really fun, but I think men masturbate more than women, and I think women are willing to let us have that. I don't think that's the hill the chicks are dying on. You know, I don't think they're like, nah, forget about the wage gap, let's close the wank gap. You know, like that's the real issue with third wave feminism, right? And this is why I think men masturbate more than women, and it's because every man I've ever met has masturbated so much in one day that he was sore the next day. And he noted down that figure and was like, never again. He found the limit. He was like, Dickerus flew too close, right? Like that's happened to every man And I've never done that with any other activity, you know, like never. Like I've never read so much the next day my eyes hurt, right? That's never happened. That's unique to masturbation. And the reason we do it is because men consider masturbation a potential solution to any problem. We haven't encountered a problem yet that we're not like, let's try a little home remedy first, before I call in the professionals. You get a headache as a man, first thing you do, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna need some Panadol, actually, yeah. Yeah, that didn't do it. Get a hangover as a man before you even get out of bed. Ooh, yeah, fluids were the issue, come to think of it. That was short-sighted, actually. I guarantee the first dude who caught COVID went into a room by himself for 5 minutes. Came back out and was like, yeah, we're gonna need a vaccine. Actually, just didn't get the job done. But while you guys are working on that, could I maybe isolate in a hotel room for, what, like 14 days, you know? Might just run the test again tomorrow. But yeah, I've got some money. That's what I've got. And the thing is, people don't talk about money. The only thing you ever hear anyone say about money is that you shouldn't talk about it. That's the only thing. Look at how tense you guys all got. I brought up money, everyone in this room just fucking clenched, you know? I talked about masturbation pretty graphically for 5 minutes. And everyone was like, yeah, that's relatable. I know nothing about money. Like, this is how little I know about money personally. I still have my first ever bank account. Dolomites. Yeah, Dolomites account. I still got it. And not because I want it, no one's ever explained to me how to leave. That's why I still got it. I just don't know how to get out of my Dolomites account. For anyone who doesn't know Dolomites, Commonwealth Bank came around to every kid in Sydney in the 90s and was like, hey, do you want money? And we were like, fuck yeah, bro. This tuck shop is open, you know? And then like, sign this. And we're like, hell yeah, dude, I've got a signature. Remember how you signed up for the Commonwealth Bank in pencil? Didn't have the pen license yet? That sounds like a binding fucking legal document, doesn't it? I've still got it. I've still got the Dolomites account. Because I just don't know how to leave. I was raised Catholic. They told me how to leave that. They're like, hey, stop turning up. I was like, cool, I'm out. But no one ever told me you could just go into another branch. You know, like I didn't realize you could just go into the other bank. I'm too afraid. I'm like, what are their beliefs? Does NAB take your foreskin? I'm not sure. Like, does NAB let you eat pork? I just want to get to the bottom of this before I switch. And this is the thing. We don't talk about money, I think, because it makes it easier to stop paying people. We don't like paying people. Nobody likes paying people. We know that you can't pay them nothing. It took us a while to figure it out, but we did learn that lesson. Yes, that was a reference to slavery. Well done. For the fucking history buffs in the crowd today, being like, that sounds familiar. But paying people a very little amount, that's just good business. You know, that's how it works. That's how capitalism works. Like, look at Uber. They sometimes try to get you to pay their drivers a living wage. They call it surge pricing. And we all have the exact same response, which is, I'll wait. You ever play that game of chicken with Uber Surge? You're like, you think I need to get there? I disagree. I think I'm going to win this game of chicken. I've got longer than your family. Let's fucking go. One guy giving himself away there with that laugh, being like, I'm a fucking winner chicken dinner, if you know. If you know, you know. But I get that. But the one thing I don't get is some people don't even give Uber drivers 5 stars. How can you not give them 5 stars? Stars are free. Stars are fake. We invented stars to encourage children to read more. That's what stars are. But now this guy's professional life hangs on you giving him 5. And look, I know this is safe space, just everybody. If you've ever given an Uber driver less than 5 stars, give me a round of applause. All right, brother. I saw you in the darkness. You were like, if I clap soft enough, he can fucking overlook me. Absolutely not. I saw movement. What's your name, sir? Raphael. Nice to meet you, Raphael. I'm Daniel. I'm the guy. Raph, why'd you give him less than 5, brother? What happened?
Because he was rude.
He was rude? Yeah. How rude?
He was asking personal questions.
He was asking personal questions? Like, how are you going? How's your night been? Got work tomorrow?
He asked how much
He asked how much you're paying for your apartment. How much are you paying for Can't fucking star me, cunt. No. He asked how much you were paying for your apartment. But, sorry, this is getting... Usually this goes quicker, but I'm interested now. When he dropped you off and saw it, or when he saw the address? When he saw the address, he was like, how much are you paying for your apartment? Where do you live, if you don't mind me asking? In Manly. I would be curious. Yeah, right. Everyone wants a little sea change, you know? Like, how much does it cost to live away from the scum? No. I would never live there. I would never pay a toll. So what'd you give him?
I said I shared an apartment.
You said you share the apartment. Oh, I didn't ask about your financial information. I know that I do dress like most auditors, but that's okay. What did you give him as a rating? 2. I think everybody in this room agrees that's pretty harsh, you know? Like for one personal financial question, docking 3 stars. But did you ask him how much he paid for his apartment? You didn't? Raph, you're holding out. Look, my favourite reason I've ever heard for not giving an Uber guy 5 was this guy in Melbourne. He was like, yeah, I didn't give him 5. I said, why? And he's like, oh, because he was a Nazi. Which is a better reason than he was rude. But no, I was like, wait, how did you know he was a Nazi? And he was like, oh, he kept going on about how white people were superior and only white people should be allowed to drive Uber. And I was like, man, there's a guy in Perth he should meet, you know? But I was like, so you gave him 1 star then? He's like, oh, no, I gave him 2 stars. And I was like, you gave the Nazi 2 stars? And he's like, yeah, well, he got me where I needed to go. And I was like, mate, no one's ever said Nazis didn't get people where they needed to go, you know? That wasn't the criticism of the regime. I was like, was he at least driving a German car? And he's like, Hyundai Elantra. And I was like, ooh, how the mighty have fallen. Sorry, I'm still definitely thinking a little bit about Raph being like, 2 stars for asking how much you paid for your apartment. Did he have like real estate agent hair or something? What happened? Raph's like, move on. If I book these tickets through an app, you'd be getting 1 star. Look, I don't know what it'd take for me to give a guy less than 5. The worst Uber driver I ever had, it was a guy who was trying to go to the airport. I had luggage, and he pulls over, and he didn't open the boot. So I was standing behind the boot trying to gesture for the boot, and he just wasn't paying attention. So I started tapping on the boot to try and get him to open it. And this guy got out of his car, walked over to me, squared up, and said, "Do we have a problem?" And I was like, "Does the boot not open?" And he's like, "Do we have a problem?" And I was like, "It'll probably fit in the back, you know?" Didn't bash me, 5 stars, right? That's reasonable. 5 stars, didn't bash me. Even if he bashed me, doesn't stab me, 5 stars, you know? Like, sometimes you're just having a bad day. But if we treat Uber drivers badly, Uber Eats is the craziest. Like, I don't know how Uber Eats is allowed. Like, genuinely, I don't know how we created this group of people who are there to bring us what we want, when we want it, because it's raining. And then in the app, it's like, hey, he's bringing you what you want, when you want, because it's raining. Would you like to tip him 10%? And we look at our phones and we're like, $1.60? Get the fuck out of here. No, of course not. 10% for exactly what I want when I want it. Actually, can he leave it at the door? Yeah, I don't want to see him. After his greed, I don't want to look at this man, because if I see him, I might feel bad and guilt ruins my appetite, right? We said it was a COVID thing. We fucking lied, you know? We just didn't want to be involved. Like, that's the thing. Do you think that Uber Eats drivers are subject to Australian law? I've never seen them get in trouble for anything, you know? Like, Cyclists, I see them get in trouble all the time. No helmet, going through a red light, whatever. But Uber Eats guys are pulling the most insane moves you ever seen in your life. And nobody is pulling them up ever. Like, you know, you see an Uber Eats guy, no helmet, it appears to be on like a 2-stroke bicycle. You know, it's got some kind of outboard motor on it with a NOS canister for some reason, you know? Oven mitts on the handlebars. Wearing a hazmat suit head to toe. Just going up a footpath, weaving in and out of pedestrians, mobile phone in each hand. And he goes past the police officer and they're like, Godspeed, you know, like get there, get where you need to go, I hope the meal gets there on time, right? Like, do you think they're above the law or below it? Do you think if you killed an Uber Eats driver, I haven't done it, but like if you killed an Uber Eats driver, do you think you go to jail for the same amount of time as if you kill a person? Like, you sit before the judge and he's like, yeah, man, that's manslaughter. That's like 10 years. And you're like, fuck, really? There was a person under there. I thought it was just a backpack and an icon on my phone. My favourite response to that joke has been this guy in Adelaide be like, oh, but why did you kill him? And I was like, oh, I assumed some kind of accident. And he's like, oh, never mind. And I was like, nah, dude, I fucking mind. What do you think happened? And he's like, oh, I assumed he must have brought you the wrong food. So you fucking killed him? Like, you look in your Uber Eats bag and you're like, this is chicken pad thai, I ordered beef, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna put you in your own backpack and ride you out to the hills, right? Adelaide, they fucking love killing people. Like, any excuse will do. Hate comedy, love killing people. But no, I do worry about them. I genuinely do worry about them. I think we need to pay people more, but we hate doing it. This is how little we talk about money. This is how little we talk about it. We still believe all the bullshit, like wealth trickles down. That's like the one phrase you've heard about money, you've heard that, wealth trickles down. Has anyone ever experienced it? Wealth trickling down is supposed to be, if big corporations have heaps of money, you'll get some. I don't know if you guys have looked at your credit card statement recently, but I'm actually paying Amazon $10 a month. They're not giving me shit. And we just don't interrogate it, because you just don't talk about money. Like, if you want to know the truth, poverty trickles down. If there's nothing up here, there's fucking nothing down here, which is why I worry about the homeless, right? There's a housing crisis everywhere, so the homeless are just getting more homeless. Like, there's never been a worse time to be homeless, because that's a cash business, and we're an increasingly cashless society. Remember back in the day when a homeless guy was like, hey, do you have any change? And you said no, and you were lying? I haven't had to lie in years. I haven't. I'm just like, sorry, bro, do you have a card reader? And he's like, no. And I'm like, we've done all we can. That's the thing. We need a way to get homeless people money. And look, I have come up with a solution, and I'll be honest, it's proven very unpopular. I think we need to start advertising on homeless people. I think they're an underutilized advertising space. I think they're attention grabbing. I think they're eye-catching and scattered evenly across the CBD. We need to get them branded. And when I say branded, I mean brands on them, you know? Like, brand is a fucking tricky verb at the best of times. In my head, the way it should work is you give them clothes. I think it should be a tracksuit, but you do you, right? And that tracksuit is covered in logos from a bunch of different brands, and the brands pay for their position on the thing, kind of like a Formula One driver. The homeless people get free clothes, and they get a passive income for wearing the logos, right? That's how it works. You just need good kind of branding opportunities, you know? Like, think about, for me, the obvious first one, Commonwealth Bank, major sponsor, should have refinanced, right? Like, if I saw a homeless person saying should have refinanced, I'd be like, I'm going to look up what that word means. You know, I've seen it float around for a long time, but now it seems quite important, you know? Like, think about it. Homeless people are already used to saying the same thing over and over again, regardless of response. That's what advertising is. You just need to change the message. Get the guy with the sign. It's got the sign being like, hey, I just need $20 to get down to the shelter for tonight. My wife left me. I'm trying to get my life back together. Flips it over. Did someone say KFC? Right? Like that. Then a little asterisk being like, for $20 at KFC, you can get a Zinger family box, you know? I just think we're used to the pitch. You know, homeless people are always like, do you have any change? What if you walk past a homeless person and he was just like, hello, Frank Walker from National Tiles. You'd be like, man, I should probably get some tiles off this dude. He's a tile expert. He sleeps on them most nights, right? A lot more skin in the game than Frank. Look, other comedians go for laughs. I'm solutions-based. You know, that's all I'm saying. But honestly, like the reason I think we're less compassionate towards homeless people than we were is because of America. I genuinely think that. I think America's got this kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps idea, and as Australians, we just kind of have the cultural drip down of what America does. I hate Australia's relationship with America, to be honest. I think America is just our dealer. Like, we don't like them, we just need what they've got. Australia's relationship with America is the relationship we have with the person at the house party who's got the bag of cocaine when you can't afford the bag of cocaine. So you just hang around them hoping they'll flick your line at some point. And you just make that deal with the devil being like, I'm going to have to agree with some bullshit this evening. That's Australia's relationship with America, you know? They come around and they're like, yo, Australia, abortion, huh? And we're like, yeah, isn't that good? Everyone makes mistakes, you know? It's their body, their choice. And they're like, yeah, no. No. Abortion, bad. Yeah. Life begins at conception. God is real. And we're like, oh, I've never heard anyone put it like that. America, well done. Well done. That is a very unique point of view that I definitely agree with. Can I maybe get a line? And they're like, no. And you're like, fuck. And they're like, yo, Australia, one more thing. And you're like, yep, great. And they're like, guns. And you're like, man, yeah, you guys have too many. Way too many. That's why you keep shooting each other. It's bad, right? And they're like, no. There's only one way to stop the shootings. More guns. And we're like, fuck America, I wish I could get inside your head for a second, you know? I've just never heard such original thinking. Could I maybe get one of those lines now? And they're like, no, and you're like, fuck! I swear I'd enjoy this party more if I was high too. But we just kind of think America's normal. Like, because we get all their TV, we get all their movies, you know, Friends is on Netflix fucking everywhere. So you just think that's what it is. I think America is an incredibly religious, heavily armed, capitalist kind of cesspool. And we just, thank you, we got some in. They're like, thank you for knowing so much about my country. I'm really enjoying my time here in Canada. But that's what they're like, and we just think they're normal. It's just like, honestly, how different from Iran is America really? Like, really? Because for me, it's titties on TV. That's pretty much it, you know? Like, we're like, yeah, that's freedom land. If there was Baywatch Iran, we'd be like, there's freedom there too. You know, there's plenty. Because think about it. Everyone thinks Iran's backward because they have, like, arranged marriage. And it's like, well, America's got arranged marriage. It's just called Married at First Sight. You know, it's televised. Like, that's really the only difference. And it's just like, well, Iran's backward because they use capital punishment. And I'm like, well, America uses capital punishment too. It's just that they use the electric chair instead of rocks. And of course, Iran can't use the electric chair to kill people. They're an oil-rich country, right? They can't be promoting an alternative energy source. And if you think about it, rocks are more sustainable. You know, if we're worried about the future of the planet, we should be using rocks more often. Another infidel, fuck, I'll use my trusty stoning rock. You know, like, reuse, bang. I don't like it because we just do whatever they want us to do because we need them. Like Australia, I don't know if you guys remember, we've got nuclear submarines now. America looked at Australia and was like, hey, you know nuclear weapons? I think we've found some responsible people. I think we've found the kind of people who need that in their arsenal. Us. This is a room full of Australian people. Does anyone here genuinely think we should have nuclear weapons under the control of Australian people? I've never seen anyone, 3 pub crawls deep, being like, yeah, give him the button. You know, like, what? Are you out of your fucking mind? Australia! And this is the thing. Everyone thinks wars are started by like a government, it's like some big plan. No. Wars are started by individual people in the moment. So we've got nuclear submarines. Australia is located close to China. There could be some bullshit in Taiwan. There's a nuclear submarine in the waters. They've got to act. And the person making the decision is just some cunt from Perth who was too dumb to get into mining. So it's just up to Lieutenant Darren, apparently. Lieutenant Darren is making that call. The seamen call him Dazza because they hate him, right? He's hungover. He's just been on Bali for shore leave. He's back under the water, nuclear submarine. Dazza! There's been some Chinese incursion into Taiwanese waters. What should we do? And he's like, fuck, mate, I'm so hungover, eh? Like, honestly, you shouldn't have had those Jaeger bombs. And they're like, but Darren, you got to make a decision. And he's like, fuck, can I just have like a minute? And they're like, Darren, you need to act now, mate. What's it going to be? And he's like, look, just let me go into a room by myself for 5 minutes. I really think it'll help me clear my head. And I'll have a decision for you. And they're like, Darren, there's no time, mate. You can only launch one thing. What's it going to be? And he's like, fuck it, cunt. Fire the missiles. What's the worst that could happen, right? And then they fire. China retaliates. World War III. And it's our fault. It's our fault. Can you imagine school students in 100 years being asked, how did World War III start? And they're like, yeah, well, initially we weren't sure, but then we did find like the wreckage from the missile, and in the shell we saw a dick scratched into it. So, turns out it was an Australian, yeah. Actually had Darren's mum's phone number on it as well. She was a bit of a sort, but she's now deceased. I just don't like it. I don't like that Australia has been brought into America's conflict with China. Like, America, conflict with China is natural. They both want to be number one. Of course, there's going to be conflict there. But what the fuck do we have to do with it? Australia has such a weird relationship with Asia because we're in it. But really pretend like we're not. If you look at a map, you're like, Australia is in Asia for sure, but then you ask an Australian and we're like, no, we're actually part of southern Europe. You know, very, very southern. Remarkably southern Europe. That's where we are. You just go down south from Italy, keep going, and you'll find us. Why else would we compete in the Eurovision Song Contest? You know, we're a lovely European nation. Yeah, good luck, Bulgaria, our neighbours, you know. We're in Asia. That's where we are. We're an Asian country, but we're like, no, we're part of the continent of Oceania. Oh, that sounds real. Oceania, named after an ocean, famously the opposite of continents. The ocean rhymes with Narnia. Fucking legit, isn't it? But that's how we think. We don't think we're part of Asia. Australia has the weirdest relationship with Asian people. I'm excited for the day when Australia can put an Asian person on TV without making them cook something. That is going to be such a good day, you know, when they can just be there being a person. Penny Wong's a senator. She's in charge of foreign policy. She does an announcement. They send her up holding a wok just in case. Everyone at home watching is like, this episode of MasterChef is shit. Like, it annoys me because I fuck with Asians. I do. I got in there early too. I'm talking pre-bubble tea. You guys didn't even know. In 2004, I was chewing a drink. You didn't know you could do that. I did. That was my group at high school, year 11 and 12. I hung out with the Asian kids, and not like the regular Asian kids, like the shifty Asian kids, you know? You know the shifty Asian kids, the one who'd smoke at lunchtime? Right, those guys? Because they could. They go to the 7-Eleven, the guy's like, how old are you? 32. Great. You know, that was my group at school. That's who we hung out with. Like, these guys were proper Asian too. Like, the names were like John, Will, Tim, like Asian, you know? I know that generally white dudes wait till their mid-60s to get into Asians, but I got in there early. You know, that's all I'm saying. And we used to hang out, and what we'd do is we'd go to the internet cafe, the net cafe in Strathfield, and we'd play Dota. That's what we'd do, Defense of the Ancients. We'd go there and play Dota. By the way, the internet cafe is a difficult concept to explain to young people, you know? Anyone who can still stay in a hostel has no idea what the internet cafe is. They're like, the internet, you mean the thing that's everywhere? And it's like, no. Back in the day, we used to have to go to a building and rent it by the hour. That's what the internet was. And it was a weird experience because you'd be browsing just next to another person browsing, you know? Like, you'd be in there playing Defense of the Ancients, they'd be in there masturbating to pornography. Like, pretty extreme pornography, and you couldn't get mad because the guy had his sunglasses on. That was incognito mode at the time. That's the best we had back then. By the way, the early 2000s is when homeless people missed their moment. That's when they should have become Wi-Fi hotspots. That was the plan. Think about it, scattered evenly throughout the CBD. Get them a nice outdoor router, charge it up, they stand there, you're out of data, the bus is coming, you don't know when, you're like, Darren, what's the password? And he's like, $2, and you're like, fuck, you're a businessman. You know, that's... Again, I'm solutions-based, I can't help it. But no, that was my group in high school, the shifty Asian kids. And yeah, one day we were at the internet cafe. My mate Will comes up to me and he's like, all right, Dan, we got to get out of here. And I was like, what are you talking about? I got 14 minutes left. And he's like, no, we're going now because we're all going to go watch a gang fight. And I don't know if you guys have realised by hanging out with me yet, I don't want to. I'm very happy to wait for the Vice documentary. That's as near as I want to be to gangs. Like, that's good for me. But I was 17, so I was trying to be cool. So I was like, fuck yeah, dude, let's go. And so we left the net cafe. Me and my Asian mates joined up with a group of like 30 Koreans. And we just started walking through the streets of Strathfield looking for the other gang. It was like the afternoon, I think like kind of 3 p.m. It was still like sunny, and it's just me, 40 Koreans. Can't wait to find them. And after a while, I was like, man, I really hope I'm not the other gang. You know, like that would be bad. I am significantly outnumbered at this point. And then after a while, this guy who was kind of at the front, like leading the way, like he starts walking back towards me real quick, and I was like, oh no. And he starts talking to Will in Korean, and then Will turns to me and he's like, all right, Dan, you gotta get out of here. And I was like, what? Why? And he's like, oh, he says you can't be here because white people called the police. Which might sound like a harmful stereotype, but I think that's pretty fucking spot on, to be fair. Like, why wouldn't I call the police? They're there to protect me. Turns out we both got a gang. But I was 17 when that happened. That was the first time I'd ever been treated differently because of my race. And obviously for anyone here who's not white, they're like, cool story, bro. But it's happened to me 2 more times, and you're going to hear about both. So, the second time was also hanging out with the Asian boys from school. We went to karaoke one night, like booth karaoke. And it was me, it was them, and like some other people I didn't know, all Asian, right? And I was sitting there on my own, and this guy I didn't know walked over to me, and he's like, "Hey man, do you realize you're the only white person here?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay." Walked away. That was it. That was the only thing he said to me all night. I was like, weird interaction, but sure. And then when I was leaving, I told my mates that. I was like, "Hey, what was with that guy? That was a bit strange." And they're like, "Whoa, he can't say that shit to you. That's racist." I was like, "Guys, that's not racist. That's counting." And I don't know if you realise he's probably pretty good at it. The last time it happened was last year. I was in America, and I was traveling with my wife. Now, just to give you guys a quick background on my wife, she's so white she was sad the Queen died. Got it? That's the level of whiteness we're talking about. She was like, "My commemorative plates," you know. And we're traveling. We flew into Dallas in Texas. And we had to get from the airport to a hotel. The airport's like a long way away from the downtown. I checked Uber, and it was like 80 US, no surge. And I was like, I don't like paying people. So I looked up other options. There was a train. It took us basically all the way from the airport to the downtown. I was like, hell yeah, we're getting the train. Now, it's like the middle of summer in Dallas. It's real hot. We got luggage. The train station's kind of outside the airport, around a corner. The train's coming in like 12 minutes. The walk's like 10 minutes. So we're hustling, right? And we get there. The train's already at the platform. And I was like, shit. And so we're trying to figure out the ticket machine. We just couldn't get it done. And just when I'm about to give up, this guy walks past, who's a black guy. Now, that's important to the story. I'm not just like, I found one, you know? So he's got a flight attendant uniform on. He walks by and he's like, "Hey man, don't worry about the ticket. The train's free." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, trust me. I've lived here 3 months, never bought a ticket." I was like, "Sick. Got on the train, right? How good's that?" And so we're sitting there chatting to him. We get settled, and then I look up and I see the rest of the train. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever had this when you catch public transport in like a new city where you get on and you realise like very quickly that you're not a member of the public there. Like they're all looking at you being like, "What are you doing on our train?" And I'm like, "I didn't know. That $80 sounds pretty fucking reasonable right now. But this is the middle of the day, it's a half-hour journey, let's get through that and never see each other again," you know? So it was a bit sketchy. But I was okay. My wife was freaking out a little bit. And then 2 stops in, a guard gets on the train. And he's a white guy. That's important to the story. I'm not just like, I found one, you know? So he gets on the train, and I was like, cool, there's a guard. And then he immediately starts checking everybody's ticket. Side note, every other person on that train had a ticket. It was an incredible commitment from those junkies to fucking also buy tickets. Like, I thought their finances were pretty scant. Apparently not, you know? They're like, this is public transport. I want to support my municipality. So he's working his way down the train. He starts talking to the flight attendant, and he's like, "Hey, sir, can I see your ticket?" And the flight attendant's like, "Oh, I thought the train was free." And he's like, "Well, the train isn't free, but don't worry, I'm not fining you today. What I'm doing is giving you a warning. Now, you can get 6 or 7 warnings, then I pass your information on to the Dallas Transit Authority, and they decide whether or not to fine you." And the flight attendant was like, "Oh, so it's free." That's a free train, right? Like, I don't care who you are. 6 or 7 warnings, then maybe a fine. Like, that's a free train. So he's like, cool, write me up. Then while he's doing that, I'm doing that thing. I don't know if you guys do this thing as Australian people when you're traveling overseas and you're about to get in trouble in a foreign country and you start trying to figure out what level of accent what level of accent might get me out of this? You know, like how far from me to Steve Irwin do I need to travel before this guy just thinks I'm a dumb cunt and leaves me alone, right? Like, that's what I was doing. I was there practicing my script, you know? Just like, oh, fuck, mate, a ticket. Crikey, yeah, nah, I don't have one. Hey, nah. Yeah, nah, this is actually my first time on a train. Yeah. We didn't have them back in Australia where I'm from. Yeah, I just thought it was a really long car, mate. I was like, geez, these limos have gotten a bit shit. Yeah, in Sydney where I'm from, if you want to go somewhere, you just get in the pouch of a kangaroo and it hops you where you need to go. Yeah, thanks for the submarines. So I was there with that, right? I was all ready with that. He finishes writing up the flight attendant and like, we're basically sitting where you guys are, like my wife and I, and he starts walking over to us. I'm psyching myself up with the fucking Steve Irwin, ready to go. Gets closer. Just when I'm about to go, he gives me one of these ones and just keeps walking. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Because I didn't have a ticket, you know? That was quite handy. But honestly, that was the most racist thing I've ever seen in my life. And I've lived here, you know? Like, that is next level. We were the only white people on the train. He looked at us and he was like, you guys don't need a fare. You've got fair skin. Off you go. And just kept going down the train. And like, obviously, I wanted to say something, you know? I wanted to be like, hey man, I think you forgot to check our ticket, but I don't like paying people, you know? And I was actually in the US working illegally, yeah, so I didn't want any trouble. We can do that too. But the thing is, like, I don't tell you that story to be like, hey, being white, pretty handy. Like, no. I just say it because I think when people don't talk about stuff, it's because they want it to stay the same. Like, don't talk about money. You know who came up with that? A boss. Because guess what? You were like, hey, can I have some more money? And he was like, you shouldn't talk about money. If you don't talk about something, you want it to stay the same. People are always like, white privilege exists. They never fucking mention it, do they? So I'm just bringing it up because it is real and it should change. But last year in Dallas, very convenient. You know, honestly, 10 out of 10 would go again on that. But in future, we should all be better. I will assess it on a case-by-case basis, but that's okay. Look, I got to get out of here very quickly. You guys have been lovely. Most comedians would end on their best joke, but I just don't know where this joke goes, so I have to put it at the end. I just don't know where else to put it. I don't like pole dancing for fitness. That's where we're starting. I don't like pole dancing for fitness. I don't enjoy it. And this is the thing, I just don't like it because it feels like cultural appropriation to me. You know, it feels like middle-class women taking something away from other women who needed it more. Is that potentially a reasonable assessment? You know, like, I don't think the original pole dancers were doing it for the fitness. I don't think it was a workout. I think it might have been work. And I just don't get how it started. You know, who was like the first lady who went into a strip club, free entry, obviously, and saw the stripper going up and down the pole and was just looking at her being like, man, she is thin. She's just so toned, it can't just be the heroin. Maybe there's some kind of calisthenics routine in there. We could get her down to the gym, she could teach us how to do that, it's got a crash. And look, I want to make very clear, like, I don't have a problem with women doing pole dancing. I have a problem with women uploading videos of them doing pole dancing for free. Because pole dancing used to be behind a paywall. Giving it away for free is fucking dumb. To see someone pole dance, you used to have to go into a strip club, pay some guy money, and I was assured some of it would trickle down to the stripper. You just can't give it away for free. And like, I'm not even a strip club guy, which I know is one of those sentences like I'm not a pedophile, right? I know. I know that everyone's like, he sounds like a strip club guy, actually. But no, I don't like strip clubs. I've been to strip clubs and literally been told my tits are down here. Apparently eye contact is frowned upon. But I'm just trying to be respectful. But no, you can't give it away for free. You just can't do that. That's the problem. Like, there are other calisthenics routines available for women that nobody was paying for at any point. Like, my wife does Pilates, which is a great option because no one wants to watch. No one. No one wants to watch women do Pilates. And I know that because we got a Pilates machine for the house, some money. And I looked at it and I was like, I think I can have sex with her on this machine. I think it can be done. So I went on Pornhub for some inspiration, typed in Pilates porn, and it said, and I've never seen this before, no results. Pornhub.com was like, use your imagination, mate. Actually, the real truth, it said, did you mean pirates? And I was like, yar. You can't do it. You can't give it away for free. Like, and I just don't think they're doing it for the fitness because they still wear the heels. That's just not a fitness shoe. As far as I'm aware, athlete's foot has no stiletto range. None. Can I get these in a 5-inch? You know, like, is Asics bringing those out, right? And honestly, I get in trouble for doing this joke more than any joke. People get so upset with me. Women come up to me and like, hey, you can't talk about pole dancing. It's not for you. And I'm like, isn't it? Who else is it for? Like, I don't want to go through the long history of pole dancing, but I'm pretty sure it's a male-sponsored industry, right? Like, we've been giving them money for a lot longer than African children. Let's put it that way. I know that's a weird comparison, but both are $1 at a time. I had this one lady come up to me. She was so angry. She was like, yeah, but men do it too. And I was like, men do pole dancing? And she's like, no. Men do the same thing. They culturally appropriate activities. And I'm like, I agree with you 100%. YouTubers are doing boxing now. They don't need that. They can just make another fucking energy drink. You know, like, that is a dick move. And she's like, no. I know men who do capoeira. And I'm like, the Brazilian martial art. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, and what's wrong with that? And she said, they're not Brazilian. And I'm like, I just don't think Brazilians give a shit. You know, I just don't, maybe they're just big Tekken fans. I don't know, right? Like, why does it matter? And she's like, because they shouldn't do it. And I'm like, look, if men are doing a martial art, I assume it's for self-defense. That's a good reason to do anything for self-defense. If women are doing pole dancing for self-defense, I take back everything I've said. If women are getting attacked in fire stations far more frequently than I'm aware of, and need some help on how to climb up that pole to safety, keep the heels on and kick down. My name's Daniel Muggleton. Have a good night. Thank you very much.